Hello guys, welcome back. My name's Nathan and today we're going to be taking a look at one potential bounce back player for every single NHL team. Now every season we see players rise to the occasion and become elite, but we also see every single year players who disappoint and don't fulfill expectations. We're going to be going over those players and the players I think can bounce back in the 2021 season right now. So, who do I think are going to be the biggest bounce back players in the 2021 season, and who do I see as the bounce back player for every single NHL team? Watch till the end for all my picks and all my predictions, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Now we're going to start with the Anaheim Ducks as always, and coming in as our first bounce back player, this one for the Ducks, that being my boy John Gibson. Now, he really did not have the greatest year, had a .904 save percentage in 51 games, and the season prior, honestly, I thought he could have been in contention for the Hart Trophy. He really was that good and was carrying the Ducks, at least for the first month, into a playoff spot, which was miraculous. This past season, I don't think the defense was as bad. I think it was a little bit more complete, and John Gibson was just not as consistent. I felt like he was kind of overwhelmed at times, which obviously did not help. I think John Gibson is a guy, though, that, especially if Josh Manson stays on that team, I think he'll also have a rebound season, will do quite well going into 2021. Then going on to the Arizona Coyotes, I have Phil Kessel. Now, he ended up getting 38 points, 14 goals in 70 games this past season in his first year in Arizona. The problem is that all the offensive players are like, yeah, they could rebound, but it's the Arizona Coyotes. They don't do that offense thing, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, but I do think Kessel, especially on the power play, will have a more effective year next year too. Then going on to the Boston Bruins, I have Ondrej Kase. He, of course, was a part of the David Backes trade. He played 6 games in the regular season for the Bruins. I think he got 1 assist for 1 point. I think he's going to be much more consistent and much better for the Boston Bruins next year. He's going to be ready. I think, honestly, in that middle 6 at least, we'll get a lot more playing time, and I think we'll be a lot more smooth and transition to that Boston system. Boston system. Then going on to, of course, from the Buffalo Sabres, Jeff Skinner. Now you can see it's not going too well for. I mean, this is with Carolina, but he got him to the boards, and he could see in the future him playing with the Buffalo Sabres, and he knew something was wrong. He knew something was wrong. You could see the torture and the despair in his face right there. But I do think he's exorcised the demons. He's got it all out of his system. And now he will be a dominant player for the Buffalo Sabres. Now, this past season, he got 23 points in 59 games. And for a guy that's getting paid $9 million, not the greatest. And he is still an inconsistent player. We know that. But I think this next season for Buffalo is going to be a lot more complete, and hopefully with Taylor Hall there, he won't have to have as much pressure on his shoulders. Then going on to the Calgary Flames, I have Johnny Gaudreau. He just kind of had a little bit of an off year, I think, for Calgary. He got 58 points in 70 games, and if we discount this year and just look at the 3 seasons prior, he's honestly one of the best wingers in the entire NHL, and I think with Johnny Gaudreau, it was just bound to happen, that kind of off year after that career year. I think he's going to get back to that elite level. Might not get like 90 or 100 points, but I do think will be around a point per game. Then going to the we're going to go to the Carolina Hurricanes. I jumped a little bit, my bad. Nino Niederreiter, my boy. Now, he was kind of interesting this last year. Got 29 points in 67 games. In his first stint with Carolina in 2019, he was unbelievable. I think got like 30 points in 37 games. I think he will recoup that a little bit, hopefully with some more playing time as well. The problem is, again, Carolina's forward group is absolutely stacked, so Niederreiter doesn't really get as much of an opportunity, especially since he's not on that first line. But I do think he will do pretty well next season, and it will hopefully be a lot more consistent too. Then going on now to the Chicago Blackhawks, I have Alex DeBrincat. Now, DeBrincat was a guy that was looking like one of the best young goal scorers in the league, and then last year happened, where in 70 games play, he got 45 points, 18 goals, which is still pretty great, but compared to the pace that he was going at least, it wasn't as impressive. I think DeBrincat will get more alongside those lines. I think also Dylan Strome will get a little bit more consistent too, which definitely helps. But I think DeBrincat, we'll see, is going to be back to that 30-goal pace. Then going on to the Colorado Avalanche. They were all good last year. I mean, the one guy you could say is like Mikko Rantanen, but he was injured and there was like a big thing there. Honestly, Nobody. They were all good, so they're going to be good again next year. It's just the Colorado Avalanche. That's just what happens. Next up, now going to the Columbus Blue Jackets, I have USA forward Cam Atkinson. Now, Atkinson in 44 games got 26 points, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but he was also pretty banged up throughout that season. I think this next year he'll be a little bit more healthy, will be a lot more consistent. I mean, in the playoffs, he was a point per game, getting 8 points in 8 games played. So I think Atkinson is a guy that if he can transition that playoff success, will be once again a very solid player for Columbus, and we'll get back to that first-line caliber player that we've seen in the past. Then going on to the Dallas Stars, I have Jumbo Joe Pavelski. Now, Pavelski in the regular season ended up getting, well, at this point, 31 points in 67 games. But in the playoffs was a lot more consistent, got 13 goals in 27 games played. I think that's a guy that, with the playoffs, was a lot more chemistry gelled with the team itself and was a lot more of a leader, I thought, on the ice. I think he will transition that next year to Dallas as well, and hopefully be able to put more goals on the board in the regular season. Then going on to the Detroit Red Wings, I have the main man in Detroit, that being Dylan Larkin. Now, to me, Dylan Larkin was a little bit of a weird player last year because I still think he was great, but he was a little bit more on the offside of things compared to 2019, where he was closer to a point per game, which was fantastic on a team like the Red Wings. I think he will get closer to that level. I'm not sure if he gets as much because Detroit is Detroit, but they do have a lot more reinforcements. I think that will help, especially on the power play, and I think he will get a lot more points this year, which will be great to see. Then going on to the Edmonton Oilers, I have the absolute GOAT, Jesse Puljujarvi. Now, Puljujarvi is a guy that's, honestly, I felt has always been mismanaged by the Oilers. Shouldn't have played in the NHL in year one. He did, and I think that kind of messed up his development a little bit. He went back to the Liga, he went back to Finland, went to work on the little things and the fundamentals, and now is signed back with the Edmonton Oilers. I think that's a team that can finally give him the ice time he's been deserving for a long time, and I think he actually will deserve that ice time once he steps in the NHL. I think he will get back to that top 6 potential, and hopefully will reach that level with the Edmonton Oilers. Then going on to the Florida Panthers, I have Sergei Bobrovsky. In his 50 games played last year, got a .900 save percentage. And honestly, before the last couple of years, Bobrovsky was arguably one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. Since then, it's been so-so, and especially this year, Florida, not the greatest. I think Bobrovsky, though, could get back to that level, and I think it was just a rough year for him. Terrible luck, too. That didn't help. But I think Bobrovsky's going to look a lot better next season because he almost has to. If you're going to be paid as much as he has, he needs to step up. Then going on to the LA Kings, I have Adrian Kempe. He's a weird one because he kind of already a little bit bounced back this year, but I still think there's more left in the tank with Kempe. In 69 games, nice. He got 32 points last year with LA. And even though they're not the greatest offensive team, I think Adrian Kempe can be a lot more the reason that they could score a lot more goals next year. I'm just hoping so because when he's on his game and when he is consistent, he's one of my favorite players in the LA Kings system, and I do love watching him play quite a bit. Then going on to the Minnesota Wild, I have Matt Dumba, a guy whose year was pretty disastrous in terms of health and in terms of performance. He ended up playing 69 games, getting 24 goals. Or 24 goals, that would have been a lot different. 24 points, my bad. But with Dumba, I think we're going to see him a lot more as an effective offensive guy next season because, plain and simple, I think Minnesota's going to be a lot more of a better offensive team next year. I think you'll see Zuccarello also rebound quite well. You'll have the presence of Kirill Kaprizov. Kevin Fiala will hopefully continue his dominance, and I think that'll also lead to that power play where Matt Dumba does his stuff. Then going on to the Montreal Canadiens, this one is kind of too obvious, that being Josh Anderson. Now, he also had some pretty bad health issues, played 24 games last year or 26 games for the Blue Jackets, and ended up getting 4 points. Not the greatest year whatsoever, but again, health and ice time did affect that. I think in Montreal, though, if he is fully healthy, I think he'll have a pretty fantastic year, especially when he'll be put on the power play in front of the net. I think that's the type of grinder that Montreal can definitely use on the offensive situations, and I think he will help that Montreal offense be a lot more well-rounded going into next year. Now going on to the Nashville Predators, and another guy that I just badly need to see rebound this next season in Victor Arvidsson. Now I just didn't feel like was quite himself this last year. In 57 games played, he got 15 goals and 28 points, and just a season prior, like the same amount of games played, he got like around 35 goals. He was a guy that was so deadly, so awesome to watch, and I'm really hoping he's able to get back to that. I don't know whether there was something really affecting him injury-wise, or it was just him not playing to his greatest, but I am hoping that we see a lot better of a year from him and a lot more of a consistent one as well. Then going on to the New Jersey Devils. Now this is a one that could be too obvious. Jack Hughes could be the obvious pick, but I already had him as my breakout candidate for the New Jersey Devils, so I'm going to go for somebody different here for the bounce back, that being Ryan Murray. Now, of course, Ryan Murray, when he is fully healthy, we all know is a fantastic defensive player, and that is definitely true. But health will be a big thing going for the Devils system. I mean, that's a guy that's going to be heavily relied upon to play defense. There's not many guys in that D-core that play defense as well as he can. I don't think there's anybody that can. So I think Ryan Murray is going to be heavily relied upon, at least in year one. And that's going to affect him, but I do think if he can rise to the occasion, be a super valuable player for the Devils, and if he is healthy, be almost exactly what they need on that defense. Then going on to the New York Islanders, this was another one that was hard to place because they don't really have anybody that really underachieved last year. My pick, I guess, will be Anders Lee. I mean, he still was pretty decent in his amount of games played of 68. He got 20 goals for 43 points, but I think that 20 goals could be quite a bit higher. He got 40 goals just a couple of years back, and I'm not sure if he'll get up to that level, but I think hopefully soon for the Islanders, we'll see him get back to that 30-goal pace. Then going on to the New York Rangers. Once again, just like the Devils, you could pick Capo Caco here, but I had him as my breakout candidate for the Rangers last time around. So for the bounce back candidate, I will have defenseman Jacob Trouba. I'm going to say this right now. The contract is horrible. It's absolutely disastrous. But I think Jacob Trouba can still rebound and become one of the top defensemen on this team. He should be the top defenseman on this team. But last year, he was probably the third best behind Fox and Tony DeAngelo. So I'm really hoping he rebound. He really needs to be better on even strength, and defensively, he was just poor. that might be sugarcoating a little bit, but he was just poor last season for the Rangers. I think Jacob Trouba needs to get back to his Winnipeg level. If he can do that, I think that is huge for the New York Rangers. I thought he looked better in the play-ins, still not where he needed to be, but hopefully he's healthy 100% and ready to go for 2021. Then going on to the Ottawa Senators, I have center Colin White. Now to me, Colin White was a weird one because last year he got 61 points in 23 games and really did not look all too great. It was kind of looking like he was in the funk the whole season. But I think Colin White does have the talent and does have the potential to be a pretty solid middle six, probably top two center for the Ottawa Senators going forward. I'm not sure if he's a first-line player, but that's a guy that I still think offensively has a lot more to give. And if he's able to play and be a lot more consistent, that's a player that will hopefully be pretty huge for Ottawa going forward. Then going on to the Philadelphia Flyers, I have Claude Giroux. Now, Giroux was interesting. He also didn't really have the greatest year, got 69 games played and 53 points. And the plans was just not that great. And especially goal-scoring wise was definitely in a funk there for the Flyers. He's going to be a guy that needs to step up offensively next year, I think. Still has a pretty solid defensive game, but that's a player that offensively needs to bring more, in my opinion. Then going on to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and this is the exact opposite situation with Sidney Crosby. Now, again, this is kind of stretching it a little bit. There's not really that many players that had bad seasons last year that are still on the team. So, for me, I'm going to go with Sidney Crosby, but just defensively. I think offensively, he was quite amazing for the Pittsburgh Penguins, especially in the regular season during the Penn streak. But defensively, at least, I think he took a little bit of a step back this last season, which was surprising because he's Sidney Crosby, and defensively, skill-wise, he probably is the best player in the world. But he wasn't that way last year. In fact, I thought he was kind of a negative value defensively last year. If he can get back to that kind of level while still producing the offense he can, I think people will realize that he's still a top 5 player. I think he is still, but some people will say otherwise, which I'm not sure about that, but we'll see what happens. I think he should be a lot better next year, though. Then going on to the San Jose Sharks, I have my boy Erik Karlsson. 56 games played, 40 points on the season. And here's the thing. Erik Karlsson, if he's able to... At this point, I don't think he's fully healthy. I don't think anybody really thinks he's fully healthy. He's still getting 40 points in 56 games played, and people think he's terrible. No, he's not terrible. The problem is, it's a weird fit on San Jose, and I feel like he's kind of getting depended on a lot there because he still is, I don't think, 100%. But if he is 100% going into next year, I think people should watch out. Now, I said the same thing last year, and it didn't really feel like he was 100%, but we'll see what happens. I mean, we might not even see Erik Karlsson 100% ever, which is really sad to think about, but I do think he needs to be better for the San Jose Sharks. For what they're paying him, he does need to be better, and I think he will be. I'm hoping for a big rebound year, not just for Erik Karlsson, but for the San Jose Sharks as well, especially if they can get that goaltending sorted out. Then going on to the St. Louis Blues, I have Vladimir Tarasenko. Now, Tarasenko was good in the regular season from what he played. He got 10 points in 10 games played. But in the playoffs where he came back, he got 0 in 4 games played. So I think Vladimir Tarasenko is a guy that needs to be healthy for the Blues going next year, especially in the playoffs, and be 100%. But that's a player that has always just kind of been weird because he does have the talent to be one of the best players, one of the best goal scorers in the league, but never quite reaches that level. We'll see what happens in St. Louis next year, but I think Tarasenko will hopefully come up big for them. Then going on to the Tampa Bay Lightning, here's a guy that I think kind of went undervalued points-wise last year and will break out a little bit more going into next year, that being Yanni Gourde. Now, Yanni Gourde got 30 points in 70 games for the Bulls in the regular season, but in the playoffs, I think got around like 14 in around 24 games played, which looked a lot better for him. I think Yanni Gourde, though, is a guy that still will probably be on that third line with Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, but I think we'll get some more power play time as well. But that line was just ferocious throughout the playoffs. I think will continue to be awesome during the regular season and will be very productive for Tampa. Then going on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, I have the captain in John Tavares. Now, Tavares, I think, was good for the Leafs last year, but not as effective as he was in his first season with Toronto. He got 60 points in 63 games played, and I think there is more to give when it comes to Tavares. I think defensively he looked a little bit better last year, but offensively took a little bit of a step back. I'm hoping for Toronto they get another step up from him, and he's able to come up big in the playoffs as well. Then going on to the Vancouver Canucks, I have winger Brock Boeser. Now, Boeser was weird because I think in his overall game he improved, but consistency was still a little bit of an issue there, and I think goal scoring wise he wasn't as effective as he once was. Just this last year got 45 points in 57 games, but didn't reach the 20 goal mark. That's a player though that I think can get back to that. He is, I still think, more of a goal scorer, but again, he has rounded out his game a lot more, which is good to see. Now it's just putting it into place and putting it on the score sheet as well. Then going on to the Vegas Golden Knights, this one is a little bit too obvious. Now you could go for Marc-Andre Fleury, but a guy who I think is going to rebound even better this year for the Golden Knights is Alex Tuch. Now last year he dealt with some injury issues, finalized his season with 17 points in 42 games played, and I think that's a guy that started off pretty well in the season. Just as the season went on, of course, due to injuries and due to consistency, was just not as good. But Alex Tuch the year prior was pretty awesome for the Vegas Golden Knights and was a big part of that forward group. I think he will get back to that level this next season for Vegas, and I think they'll definitely want to depend on them, especially on the power play. Then going on to the Washington Capitals, I have goaltender Henrik Lundqvist. Now he ended up getting 30 games played and a .905 save percentage for the Rangers this last season. And I think Henrik Lundqvist is a guy that some people might say is washed, but I think in a new scenario, in a new situation in the Washington Capitals, which he hasn't had since he stepped with the New York Rangers, I think in a new scenario under Ilya Samsonov, being able to be the mentor to him, I think that's going to get a lot more motivation with Henrik Lundqvist and give him the play that he could have. Now, I don't think he's going to win a Vezina trophy or anything, but I think as a backup role, playing the same amount of games played, you could look at probably like a .915, .910 save percentage, a lot better than he was this last season. I think he's going to be a lot more effective, and we'll get more to the Henrik Lundqvist that we know and love. Then going on to our last team in the Winnipeg Jets, this one being Paul Stastny. I really do think Paul Stastny is going to get back to that true second-line center that we thought he could be. Now, as a person who watches Vegas quite a bit last year, I just was not convinced that Paul Stastny was the bona fide number 2 center that Vegas needed to win a Stanley Cup. And he got better as the playoffs went on, but still was not the guy that they needed. Now, they don't have him anymore, and I'm not really sure what they're trying to do unless Cody Glass ends up breaking out as that player. But on the Winnipeg Jets, if he ends up playing with a guy like Patrick Laine, that is a perfect situation for him, and he will likely play as the second-line center. And even if he doesn't revolutionize anything for Winnipeg, he still has the options of guys like Nikolai Ehlers, Blake Wheeler, friggin' Kyle Connor, Patrick Laine on his wings. That's not too bad, and I think he'll have a lot more weapons to work with consistently, especially on that power play. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy. My name is Nathan, of course, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell for all notifications on all my new videos. Make sure you comment down below your thoughts. What do you agree and disagree with my picks? And let me know on your favorite team, who do you think will be the big bounce back candidate going into 2021? Make sure you share this video with your friends, get it out there, and click on this card for all my predictions and picks videos right in one playlist. I love you. I'll see you in the next video or stream. Also, Jeff Skinner loves you. That's all. Goodbye.